Right, Finance Minister Tito Mboweni has just finished a teleconference on the country's economy. So for more on what the minister was talking about, I'm joined now in studio by our business editor, Xolani Mbanjwa. It's good to have you with us. Does the minister have a plan to preserve livelihoods, but most importantly, to minimize the mass loss that we're going to experience in terms of jobs?
Thanks, Chabo. Well, it seems like he does have a plan. He spoke about a two-phase approach, and the first phase, which we already know, the banking sector coming up with some relief for customers and payment holidays for some, those who qualify, and that also includes the repo rate being cut by the Reserve Bank by 100 basis points, and the others being tax relief for employers and employees alike. That's the first phase that he spoke about during this press conference.
And these payment holidays, I mean, are they voluntary? Because, I mean, you can't really get the banks to cooperate. The Reserve Bank tried to say, guys, don't pay bonuses. They're like, no, maybe we'll think about it, but we're paying bonuses anyway.
But no, some of them actually have, all of them actually, all the banks have actually not paid the actual bonuses as per the directive for the Reserve Bank. They were talking about those, dividends that had and bonuses that had not been announced yet. Those that had been announced, those ones can be paid. But the press briefing, the teleconference is still ongoing. He's answering some questions and revealing some, shocking figures. Once again, a 6.1% contraction in the economy expected this year. He has already said that there is going to be a reprioritization of the budget, which means we're going to be taking money from one department and spending it on another. And he actually singled out the health department because of the health response that we need to have when it comes to COVID-19.
Yeah.
He says South Africa is facing major shocks, three major shocks globally, locally, and on the African continent. We must be cognizant of the fact that we also had two ratings downgrade, one by Fitch and another by Moody's. But on the second phase of the response, he also says that the door has been left open. He actually leaves the door open for the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank for us to go there. And he specifically said that we are exploring all funding options so that we close the particular gap in terms of funding that we need in this country. He specifically said we are looking at all international funders, and tomorrow they are going to, with the economic cluster, they are going to present their case as to how the Treasury is and the South African government should respond. Where are we going to go to locally for debt, that's rand-denominated debt, and also, which is still good, we are on the good side when it comes to rand-denominated debt. And then there is foreign currency debt, and that's what, the alliance partners were saying, including the FF, do not go to the IMF and the World Bank.
So how is he going to get especially that foreign debt, especially with Moody's and Fitch having made their announcements of downgrading our sovereign credit rating? Did he speak at all about that?
No, he didn't speak about that. Basically, it's going to come at a cost because we have spending pressures currently. We already had before the outbreak of COVID-19, but we now have more spending pressures coming into the South African system, and the deficit sitting at 6.2% is going to increase. They are estimating that it's going to increase above 10% of GDP, and that is something that is notable because that means we are getting more and more into a hole when it comes to debt. Some have actually, Moody's estimated a 12% budget deficit, double where we are standing right now. So
interesting, because the Reserve Bank also spoke about our credit risk, that is a debt actually being a big issue at this point in time. The Reserve Bank citing the small business going to be quite hit hard, especially with the extension of the lockdown. The longer the shops stay closed, the more it's going to impact on them. Does the Finance Minister have any relief for small businesses?
Yes, Thabo, he has announced that there will be relief for SMMEs that they are going to put forward to the cabinet tomorrow, and these will be done through the banking system. So it means that the banks are going to offer some relief, some funding, particularly those that, as we've seen, those that meet particular certain criteria, which is something that is quite good. But before we can even talk about, the funding to small businesses, we need to quantify how much we need and how much we're going to have to pay it back. That's what he says in the statement, that quantifying how much we actually need and actually sourcing it locally and internationally is something very important. And this should be welcome news for the small businesses in this country, because the International Labour Organization has been saying that when it comes to South Africa's unemployment rate, which sits at 29.1%, we can only put a dent on it if we make sure that we support small businesses and grow them. And this is quite important. And even in the National Development Plan, Thabo, that's what it says, that small businesses are important. So it's going to be interesting to see what sort of funding measures and for whom.
He's one who's not afraid of criticism. I mean, he always faces it head on. Many have been saying, why has he taken so long to come address the public when his counterparts probably have done 2 or 3 of these briefings already? Did he even venture to that?
No, he didn't venture into that. But, South Africa is facing substantial negative impact on economic growth and its fiscal position. And for some quarters to expect him to act in a knee-jerk way without consulting all parties, it would be disingenuous, and it's something, it would be a criticism that is unfair, honestly, because when it comes to the state-owned enterprises, for example, we've heard from NEDLEC saying that take money from those SOEs that we don't really need, that are there, and fund the economic growth that we will need post the national lockdown. So that is quite an unfair criticism, but just like he is going to do tomorrow with the cabinet, he is going there to actually present his plan, and we want to hear if are we still going to have South African Airways? Is it going to come back? Yeah. Many people don't think so.
And security of energy, of course, is quite a big thing. The South African Reserve Bank touching on that, saying energy prices have kind of moderated, that they are not expecting a lot of movement at this particular point in time. But of course, Eskom needs to be supported, and just before the lockdown, in fact just before the outbreak, we were not sure whether Treasury will be giving that necessary support to Eskom.
That is a very difficult question, Thabo. Perhaps one of the most difficult considerations for National Treasury right now, because if you remember correctly, Eskom was in court to actually pressure the NERSA to actually give it, more increases, above inflation increases. That court case has stalled because there is no court action currently taking place. But is Eskom going to come back after this, lockdown to say, well, the lockdown is over, the courts are back on, we still want our 8% increase? There is a lot of pressure when it comes to electricity prices and electricity supply. And currently we are having it good. Eskom is maintaining most of its power stations, which is something that we need. But they did say clearly that let's not expect that for load shedding to go away just because we have amped up our maintenance. So it's going to come back after the national lockdown.